Welcome once again to episode 5 of All Things Missing and Lost. In this channel, we explore people, things, and cities and locations that have gone missing. Some of them found, some of them never found again. Again, this is a reminder to us all that the things and the people we have around us are not to be taken for granted. They can just vanish in a flash of an eye. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Well, today in episode 5, we'll be exploring the 1967 case of the missing Prime Minister. Indeed, you did not hear me wrongly. It is the missing Prime Minister of Australia, Harold Holt. Harold Holt was the Prime Minister of Australia when he went missing. You see, he was known to be a very strong swimmer and often loved swimming in the sea. In fact, throughout his life, he had gone to the beach multiple times, swam in strong currents, and he also prided himself on being someone who could hold his breath as long as he could. In fact, just before he went missing in 1967, on the 20th of May 1967, he went to Cheviot Beach in Victoria, whereby he went swimming and he was trying to hold his breath and go underwater and to dive. And it was at this time whereby he struggled and found himself struggling in the water. He called out for help and he was thankfully rescued, but he vomited a huge amount of seawater and he was conscious. He said thereafter that he thought that he might actually lose his life. You think that would put him off swimming, but 3 months later, on the 5th of August 1967, at his 59th birthday, he was actually swimming underwater, trying his best to catch a coral trout. He'd gone for about 25 minutes chasing after it underwater, in fact, surfacing rarely to take a breath. But eventually he abandoned that pursuit due to shortness of breath. Now, these incidences happened in May and in August, but by no means were they his only opportunities of swimming in the sea. In fact, he was well known for his love for swimming in the sea. Now, fast forward, we come to the 17th of December 1967. On this fateful day, he was actually lost while swimming at sea at Cheviot Beach at Pointsea, Victoria. In fact, what happened to him was that he was actually out with some friends. There were about 5 of them, and that they had gone up to Port nearby to visit. They'd gone out to watch vessels sailing in the channel, and then on their journey back, he made the suggestion that they should drop by Pointsea at Cheviot Beach, where he was familiar with, and that they would go out swimming while they were there. But the current that day was very strong, and in fact only Holt and Alan Stewart, his friend, were brave enough to step into the water. In fact, Alan Stewart was so unsure that he decided to stay near the shores, keeping his feet in shallow waters, and it was Holt who went out swimming. The rest of the people just watched them from afar on shore. Holt went deeper and he was swimming. He did not give any sign, according to the witnesses, that he was struggling. When suddenly he was pulled out into deeper water, he continued swimming for a bit more, and then he was no more. He disappeared. Alan Stewart panicked when he no longer saw Holt, and he drove down immediately to the Officer Cadet School of the military outpost at Pointsea and told them the Prime Minister's gone missing. He was swimming just a while ago and now we can't see him anymore. You can imagine the panic that arose amongst all the soldiers there. In fact, they dispatched about 340 of them and a search party to try to find him. Eventually, the search grew to such an extent whereby it was a massive effort of people searching the entire area. You can imagine why it was so. It was the Prime Minister of Australia after all. In fact, the search was eventually called off on the 5th of January 1968. They could find no sign of Holt, no sign of his dead body, so to speak. People pondered what actually happened that day. In fact, they concluded that he had perhaps died an accidental death, drowned in the strong currents, and never recovered. His body was never found, because perhaps something had happened along the way that prevented him from being found. The witnesses noted that there were several cans of beer inside his bag on that day. He had been drinking a bit, and it was also noted that during that time he had mentioned to the physician that he had felt tired and stressed from his work, and he was prescribed medication, of which morphine was one of those medications that were prescribed unto him. Mix that together with beer, and I don't think you have a very good combination. But there is no assumption that can be made that he was drunk that day or that he was actually high. In fact, the inquiry found that it could be possible that his body had been trapped by kelp, and then marine creatures like sharks, like crustaceans could have swarmed and actually turned it into a skeleton within 48 hours or so. So that could be the possible reason why it was never ever found. But that didn't stop the conspiracy theories from putting up the various assumptions as to what caused him to disappear. The first assumption was that some people said that he might have committed suicide. He was looking to die. He was, after all, tired and stressed by his work. And he was the one who suggested to go down to Cheviot Beach anyway. So it's possible that he was looking to kill himself. Now, this was unlikely because that morning he had woken up, had a normal breakfast, drove down to buy repellent as well as peanuts as well as a newspaper for his wife. And he seemed to be in a normal mood when he was with his 5 friends who were with him on that journey. So it's unlikely that they think that he committed suicide. Well, some people think he might have been eaten by a shark. No, this is being Australia, and it could be possible he had a shark attack happen to him right out in the sea. No one noticed, and he was dragged down into the depths and then never seen again. Some people also say that it could be possible that the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, had killed him and assassinated him, because he had at that point of time been pondering if he should pull out the Australian troops from the Vietnam War. Now, this is again an assumption, and it's again been debunked by some people who said, no, I mean, you're not going to kill the guy just because he wants to pull out Australian troops. It's not as if they are that crucial to the war effort, and so on and so forth. What do you think actually happened to Holt that day? Was it suicide? Was it a shark attack? Was he high on medication and beer and somehow caused himself to go into unconscious state and drowned? Or was he assassinated? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe.